All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're exploring the surprisingly funny history behind everyday things.
We're talking about the stuff you probably never even thought twice about, like how did we end up with toilets?
Or umbrellas, alarm clocks.
And how did we get from carrier pigeons to emojis?
Yeah, seriously. From ancient inventions to modern marvels.
We're uncovering the unexpected and often hilarious journey of how these things came to be.
I'm ready to be amazed. Let's start with something we all use every day. And honestly, something we probably take for granted.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The toilet. Can you imagine life without indoor plumbing?
Oh, don't even get me started. Chamber pots, outhouses, no thank you.
It's a side of history I can definitely live without. Although it is funny to think about in a strange way.
Well, speaking of things that are funny in a strange way, the flush toilet has actually been around longer than you might think.
Really? I had no idea.
Yep. Sir John Harrington, back in 1596, actually gave a working flush toilet as a gift to his godmother.
Wait, a toilet as a gift? That's, thoughtful.
It gets even better. His godmother was Queen Elizabeth I.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. What did he call it? The royal flush?
Close. He called it the Ajax.
The Ajax. Okay, I see what he did there. But seriously, can you imagine the look on people's faces when he explained how it worked?
I can only imagine. But it makes you wonder what people back then would think of our modern toilets.
Probably be just as mind-blown as we are by the Ajax. But speaking of things that are both amazing and a little bit gross, what about those Roman public toilets?
Oh yeah, talk about a different definition of going social.
Right. Can you imagine just casually chatting with your friends while using the toilet?
I mean, I guess when in Rome, but those Romans, they were onto something with their sanitation systems, even if it was a little communal for my taste.
To each their own, I guess. But hey, at least they had a system. Medieval castles? Not so much. They had those garderobes.
Ah, yes, the garderobes. Basically toilets built into the wall that just kind of emptied out into a pit.
Stylish. So glamorous. But you know what is glamorous?
What's that?
Umbrellas. Well, at least they are now. Did you know they used to be a status symbol?
Oh, absolutely. Forget about carrying around a little collapsible umbrella.
In ancient times, you'd have someone follow you around with a giant leaf to shade you from the sun.
Talk about making a statement.
Right. It's like the ultimate I'm too important to get rained on accessory.
Thankfully, somewhere along the line, practicality won out.
Thank goodness for that. But even practical umbrellas had a bumpy road to get where they are today.
Oh, I bet. I can only imagine the frustration of those early umbrella inventors, trying to create something that wouldn't turn inside out in a strong breeze.
Right. And can you imagine life before collapsible umbrellas? Imagine carrying those big clunky things around all the time.
Talk about a workout. But hey, I guess it builds character.
And arm muscles.
That too. It makes you appreciate how much thought goes into the design of even the simplest things.
It really does. But speaking of inventions that took a while to get right, let's talk about alarm clocks.
Oh man, I can hear that annoying buzzing sound just thinking about them.
Right. But I guess it's better than some of the alternatives people came up with before alarm clocks.
You're telling me, imagine someone waking you up by banging on your window with a pea shooter.
Yeah. Not exactly the most gentle way to start the day.
No kidding. Before alarm clocks, people were stuck with roosters, water clocks, candle clocks, you name it.
I heard they even used to have people whose actual job it was to go around waking people up.
Oh yeah, the knocker-uppers, they called them.
Knocker-uppers? Seriously?
Yep. They'd use all sorts of methods to rouse people from their slumber, knocking on doors, calling out names. They even used those pea shooters you mentioned.
Talk about a rude awakening. It's amazing how something as simple as waking up on time used to be such a complicated affair. But, makes you think about how far we've come in terms of, well, just making life a little bit easier. And speaking of making life easier, let's talk about communication.
Okay, sure.
I mean, can you believe we went from literally carving messages in stone to sending instant messages around the world?
It's mind-blowing, right? And not just the speed, but the sheer variety of ways we can communicate now. It's amazing.
Totally. And it wasn't always that easy. We've got the oldest known love letter, for example.
Yeah.
Written on a clay tablet.
A clay tablet. Talk about a message that's built to last.
Right. No deleting those awkward typos.
And can you imagine waiting weeks, months even, for a reply? We freak out if someone doesn't text back in 5 minutes.
Oh, I know. We're spoiled by instant gratification these days. But those early forms of communication, they were all about patience. From clay tablets to carrier pigeons, smoke signals to the printer press.
Each invention building on the last.
It's incredible to think about how it all evolved.
It really is. It speaks to that fundamental human need to connect, to share ideas and stories.
Absolutely. And sometimes to just be heard. Like, did you know early humans used to use hollowed out bones as primitive megaphones?
Get out.
Yeah.
Really?
Talk about going old school.
That's amazing. I wonder what they'd think of our modern sound systems.
Right. From bone megaphones to surround sound, it's wild. But speaking of communication evolution, we can't forget about the telephone.
Oh, the telephone. That's a big one.
For real. Can you imagine going back to a time before you could just pick up a phone and talk to anyone, anywhere?
I can't even imagine. No texting, no video calls, just those clunky old phones.
And even those clunky phones were revolutionary at the time. It's like Alexander Graham Bell just blew everyone's minds with that first grainy, "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you."
I know. It's crazy to think how far we've come since that first phone call.
And let's not forget about those phone operators. They were the original multitaskers, connecting all those calls manually.
Yeah, talk about a tough job.
Seriously. And those old phone booths? Can you imagine trying to have a private conversation in one of those things?
Not a chance. It's a good thing we have noise-canceling headphones these days.
Right. We've come a long way, baby. Speaking of things that have gotten a major upgrade, let's talk about photography. Because those old-timey pictures, they don't exactly scream candid or Instagram-worthy.
Oh, no, not even close. Those people in those old photos, they look so serious, like they were about to launch a ship or something.
Right. No duck faces, no peace signs, just stern looks and perfect posture.
And can you imagine having to sit still for like an hour while the photographer did their thing?
I know. Forget about selfies and filters. Back then, getting your picture taken was a serious commitment.
I can practically feel my back getting stiff just thinking about it.
And those early cameras, they were basically pieces of furniture.
They were huge. And don't even get me started on the chemicals they used. Talk about a health hazard.
I know, right? It's
Right.
like, let's capture this special moment while risking life and limb.
Exactly. It's a good thing photography has gotten a little less explosive over the years.
A little less smelly, too. But seriously, those early photographers were pioneers. I mean, they were figuring out how to capture light and shadow, how to make those images last. It's pretty incredible when you think about it.
It really is. And let's not forget the patience it took. Some of those early photographs required exposures of hours.
Hours. Seriously.
Oh, yeah. Imagine trying to tell someone used to Instagram filters that they had to hold a pose for 8 hours straight to get their picture taken.
I would have been that blurry kid in the background of every photo. But hey, I guess that's one way to make sure everyone's eyes are open in the picture.
That's one way to look at it. But speaking of things that have evolved from dangerous and difficult to safe and easy, let's talk about light bulbs.
Oh man, light bulbs. Can you imagine life without them?
I can't. No reading in bed, no late night snacks.
No more scrolling on my phone until 2:00 a.m.
Exactly. Electric light completely changed the way we live.
And to think, it all started with Thomas Edison, right?
Well, Edison gets a lot of credit, and he did do some pretty amazing things. But he wasn't the only one working on the light bulb at the time.
Really? I had no idea.
Yep. There was another guy, Joseph Swan, over in England. He was developing his own version of the light bulb around the same time.
Wow, so it's like a classic case of great minds think alike.
Exactly. It happens more often than you think.
So basically, we almost had the Swan light bulb instead of the Edison light bulb.
Pretty much. It makes you wonder how many other groundbreaking ideas are out there just waiting to be discovered. Or maybe even being discovered right now in different parts of the world.
That's kind of mind-blowing. It's like the future's happening right now, we just don't know it yet.
Exactly. So next time you're using something as simple as a light bulb or an umbrella, take a moment to appreciate the long and winding road those inventions took to get here.
It's true. And maybe even think about what those future inventions might be. What will people be amazed by in the future?
Now, those are questions to ponder. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. It's been a blast exploring the hilarious history of everyday things with you.
Absolutely. From toilets to umbrellas, alarm clocks to photography, and of course, the amazing light bulb. It just goes to show even the most ordinary things have extraordinary stories to tell.
They sure do. And who knows what amazing inventions the future holds. Maybe someday we'll be the ones being talked about on a podcast like this.
Until then, thanks for listening. And don't forget to share your thoughts and any fun facts you have about everyday inventions with us on social media.